Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey here once again with another video on The Flash Season 6. So as we should all know, the new season of DC TV on the CW does start this week. The Arrowverse is finally back. So Batwoman and Supergirl will start tomorrow, with Flash later in the week and Arrow next week, while we will be waiting until early 2020 for the start of the newest season of Legends of Tomorrow. But in this video, we're going to be going over an interview with the new showrunner for The Flash for this season, that of course being Eric Wallace, where he does hype up the Flash for one last time before the season kicks off. And there's a decent amount in this interview. So this interview was with Collider.com, and yeah, it's a big one. There's lots of stuff, so I will read it all out, but I won't go over everything, break it down. Just a handful of the answers that are, interesting and, fresh. So yeah. But of course, throughout the video, be sure to leave all of your various thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. From what Eric says, get you excited and even more excited, and just get you thinking. Leave all of your opinions down there. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show your support and excitement for the new season of The Flash. With the Monitor telling Barry and Iris that the Flash must die, how will they grapple with that this season? That would be the plot of episode 602. Crisis turned out to be the best thing that could have happened to the Flash because it created an immediacy to things. We know that on December 10, 2019, the Flash will die. He said it. We're not messing around. So, as a married couple, they can count the number of days and weeks. The countdown begins next week. What kind of urgency does that give them? An extreme one. It turns the dial up to 10, and it makes them think, is every moment together our last? What can we do? Should we find this? Is it inevitable? Those are all the things that they're grappling with for these next 7 episodes. Episode 608 ends and it's crisis time. It's time to go off to literally cosmic war. So the relationship is strained, but it's also going to bring them closer together than ever before, because that's what tragedy does. So quickly, thoughts on this. He just reveals when Barry dies. December 10th, 2019, which is the Flash episode of Crisis. So I was saying the whole time that I think Barry might die in the Flash episode, and will he? I don't know. There's a cliffhanger. Remember, that's the important thing. The Flash episode is the last part until we go into the break, before we come back for the last 2-hour finale for Crisis. Will he die there? Will he die? But then he somehow comes back. Well, what's the cliffhanger there? Because there's going to have to be a cliffhanger to lead off into that big break before we get the last half of the event. So he reveals it. So news bells are ringing. December 10th, 2019. That's when the Flash is meant to die. So that's obviously where Barry's probably going to time travel to when the Monitor tells him this. But that's crazy that Eric just flat out told us the date. So yeah. In Season 3, Barry and Iris had a similar situation when they learned that Iris was going to die in the future. What did that experience teach them that could help them now? You should watch episode 602 when that exact question is asked and answered. That is literally the plot. What this story has enabled us to do is to look back at any other time when somebody was facing life and death and see how they reacted then. So in the writer's room, we had a lengthy discussion about it being the other side of the coin. We now know, how they reacted with Iris, but how will they react in episode 602? I will tell you that it's different. It's not the same because of what they learn next week. That's the great part of this story. The Monitor showing up and making a cosmic pronouncement drives them to extremes in order to fight against or accept the coming crisis. Episodes 602, 603, 604, 605, and 606, couldn't you just said episodes 2 to 6? Anyway, especially are all about, do I accept death or do I fight it? The show seems to sort of be setting up Crisis in its own way. How did you balance telling the story of Bloodwork while also setting up this massive crossover? Fortunately, it worked out really great because Crisis is about grief and about death and about the end of all worlds. You have the Bloodwork villain who is facing the end of his own world. So from his point of view, who cares about Crisis because he's more concerned about the immediacy of his own life. Now, does that mean he could perhaps live past Crisis? That's the real question that he has to grapple with, and I won't give you the answer. So it turned out to be the most fortuitous set of story events possible, dealing with life and death, dealing with his death as a villain, and dealing with the death of all worlds. When all the showrunners got together to talk about Crisis, I pitched them what Bloodwork does, and they were like, oh, that's great. And then all of this synergy started to happen. The Arrow folks said, hey, we're going to do something crazy in episode 801. And I went, oh, that's perfect. It was this domino situation that fell. There's a lot of cross-collaboration. It might not seem like it at first, but it all comes together very nicely in Crisis, our crossover event. It all feeds into itself. So this was a big concern I think a lot of people had going into this season, was how all the shows, I guess specifically Supergirl, Flash, and Arrow, going to, make their first half of the seasons seem relevant enough to be, pay attention to in regards to whoever the villain is when Crisis is in the background. They're setting up Crisis. But, Arrow's probably not going to have a big bad or anything, but with Flash, they're obviously working it in where sort of the villain's story is like a parallel to Crisis and what's happening there with the heroes. So this is actually great to hear. How aware is the rest of the team about what's going on with what the Monitor said? You'll have to watch episode 603. You're right on the money. We asked that same question in the writer's room, so we made it in an episode. You'll get your answer in episode 603. Is Barry aware that Oliver Queen is also working for the Monitor right now? No, and when they find out, it's good stuff. It's so great. I can't tell you when it happens, but I will tell you that it is a scene that happened, it is a moment, and it is coming. Let's just say that people might get pissed off a little bit. So just quickly on that, I wonder if it means that it happens in Flash? Or is that going to happen like one of the first episodes of Crisis? I don't have to wait and see. Maybe it happens in Arrow, who knows? In the Crisis comic book story, both the Flash and Supergirl died, and there were variations of them later. What were your thoughts about that when it was done? I was the perfect age for Crisis when it first came out, and it blew my mind that so many characters that were beloved died, and then they were rebooted. So when we were approaching the writing of Crisis, obviously we can't just kill all of our number ones on our shows. That's insane. You can kill a couple of them, and we do, but you have to find the balance. What it meant to me was that we should tap into the feeling that the readers in 1985 would have had when reading that story with the tectonic shifts in the comic world, underneath. When you watch the crossover, you're going to feel those tectonic shifts, especially at the end. It's not small. It's a game changer in the same way that the ending of Crisis, the comic book, was a game changer, and it opens up to a whole new world. Now, he obviously says a couple of big characters are going to die. So obviously, Oliver's one, even though whether you agree that he technically dies or not. Who else will die? Let me know in the comments. But I can't wait to see what this big game changer is. He's already said that the Flash in the back season is a game changer due to Crisis. So I'm so excited. Let's move on. How much more of Iris as a journalist will we see over the course of this season? You'll be ridiculously happy this year. Before I even got here as a fan, I kept asking myself, why isn't this woman a journalist? I don't understand. She doesn't have a staff, she has no office, that's a pretty crappy journalist. Does she work out of her own house? If we know from episode 518 that she becomes a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist and that she has an empire, we need to start building those seeds, and we need to do it right now. So we have very urgently done that this season. You'll meet her new staff member very soon. The new staff starts in episode 602. Why waste time? We just get to it. Depending on how the back season goes, because we have a budget, it might be a small staff at first, but it's very much about seeing her take charge of what we refer to as Team Citizen. They will appear and they will be getting into trouble, especially in the back half of our show, because now we have a new way to bring in meta storylines with her investigations. It doesn't always have to be a bank robber anymore. It's been the blessing from the story gods. Will Iris meet Lois Lane? I'm not going to answer that, but I think you know the answer. Is that clear? I'm not saying a word. So quickly on this, basically it relates back to Eric's previous thing there. Like a lot of people complained that Iris didn't meet Lois last season in Elseworlds. It would have been like, a pro athlete meeting a little league player, or little athletics, someone that's 3 years old. Iris wasn't really a journalist at that point, but now she's got her own stuff going on, so I guess it makes more sense for her to meet Lois Lane in this year's crossover. Cisco's relationships haven't always been well served on the show. Will it be this time? Yes, in fact, we love Camilla. That's why when we skipped forward 4 months, we wanted to just rip the band-aid off and be like, she's already in the family. She knows Barry's the Flash, and she knows about Vibe. They're just doing fine and having a healthy relationship that's not Barry and Iris. As far as their relationship, ups and downs and highs and lows, they won't be having that kind of drama. They're doing great. That's one of the themes of his season arc that plays over all 22 episodes. Can you be happy being human? Can you be happy not being a meta? Can you be happy not saving the world every week? Yeah, you can. You can get a beer at the picnic and maybe you do punch in 9 to 5 and let the Flash handle everything else. That's nice. That's a big thing that Cisco will be struggling with all season, and Camilla is a part of that. Quickly, we know the season starts 10 seconds after the end of season 5, but he just basically says we have a 4-month time jump after that, which I think a lot of us thought would happen just due to how Arrow ended last season, because they were so far ahead in the timeline. So it's good to get it confirmed, but it's not too surprising. But for anyone that was still thinking that it was the whole season's just 10 seconds after, then we do get a time jump. With Killer Frost and Caitlin coming to an agreement, what will we see from Killer Frost trying to live a life? Now that she has a life coach, it has been a pure delight writing Killer Frost this season. She's much more in the forefront than Caitlin is. That life coach stuff starts in episode 602. It's the second scene and we honour the promise of the premise. We deliver and it's led to these hilarious situations. We talk of her almost as a teenager who finally got the keys to the car but doesn't know how to drive. And then she's got to drive to go to the store or the movies or wherever. Everything is new through her eyes, which means she's going to make some mistakes, which is great. It's going to lead to some more tears, but she's also going to grow into something that didn't exist before. Maybe you do lose that killer. Maybe it's just Frost down the line. And Danielle is having a blast. I told her what's coming in the back half of the season because that's what we're breaking. We're at graphic novel number 2, and the result of where she ends up emotionally in graphic novel 1, gives her the strength to face what lies in graphic novel 2. Will we be seeing more meta storylines that show different types of metas that aren't criminals? Yes, it goes back to honouring the old of the first 5 seasons, but finding new ways to make it fresh. You should just watch episode 602, got that episode's referenced a lot. There are 2 new story devices to bring in cases. One is that they don't have to be a bad guy, and the second one appears next week. It's a new way to get stories in because it's based in character. That's part of the fun. Let's see different kinds of stories. Just because this show is The Flash doesn't mean another main character can't take center stage for an entire episode. Look for that because that's happening. We have such a talented cast, so why aren't we using them? The synopsis for episode 602 mentions John Wesley Shipp. Which version of him will we see? It's Jay Garrick. Season 6 is a little more serialized now, which probably comes from me having been on Teen Wolf. Sometimes we pick up right from where something left off. We fooled the audience with the premiere because we did a direct pickup, but then we jumped forward 5 months. But a lot of the episodes, especially 602, 603, and 604, and then it picks up 1 second later because I want the immediacy that audiences get when they're watching a streaming show that's 8 or 10 episode. That's our competition, quite frankly. I want that same immediacy brought to the CW, and I love them so much for saying, do it, we support this. The Season 6 premiere talks a lot about getting to know a new version of Nora eventually. Is there a pregnancy storyline bubbling for Iris at all? Not this season, but that doesn't mean a huge hint about Nora isn't coming this season. There will be 2. One will probably be misinterpreted the wrong way because it's a deliberate misdirect. I like that and I like mysteries, but it's real, so look for that. The comic book fans will be watching episode 602 and they'll see a particular thing and go, oh my god, I know what that means. In the Bronze Age comics, we learned that Iris was actually born in the 30th century and was sent back in time. Is that a story that would ever be adapted to the TV show? Yes. Can you elaborate? No. But I'm telling you yes. Now, when I read this was insane. I couldn't believe that this was, 1, brought up, but 2, that he confirmed that it's probably going to happen, that it's in his eyes. I don't know how they're going to make it work because it's a bit strange. Like, it's a bit strange in the comics, but you get away with it in the comics, but I don't know how they make it work here, unless it's like another, maybe it's post-crisis, something to do with Iris. Maybe her history gets changed post-crisis. Maybe Iris is a changed character after what happens in Crisis, and then her origin changes where she is from the future. That'd be crazy, but I don't know if West Allen fans will like that, but yeah, that's weird. What's the process for honouring the stories that so many of us know from the comics and yet presenting them in a way for modern audiences where you can deviate a little for surprises? As a Bronze Age reader myself, I know what storyline you're talking about and I love it. The comics are so rich with wonderful themes and ideas, so that's what we want to honour every week and draw from. But ultimately, what we have to do is tell modern, contemporary, grounded stories, so we have to find a way to mix them. Everything should start with, what cool thing do I want to see? I just want to see that because it's insane or because I love it. When I was reading my Bronze Age comic book, this is what happened. And then I'll sit back and go, well, we do need Iris to get to this place emotionally, and now this storyline supports that. So suddenly we've got a piece of Bronze Age hard data, and we're incorporating it into a story. That's why it hopefully feels a little seamless, and it rewards the Bronze Age and Silver Age reader, and even the modern readers with Bloodwork. Bloodwork is a contemporary villain who's in the comics right now. That's something I specifically wanted to do. I wanted to pull in a new kid who's reading The Flash right now and goes, oh, I love Bloodwork, he's so crazy. I want him to connect to our show too, and not just his dad, who's probably my age and has had a long Flash connection. We haven't met the new Wells, so what can you say about Tom Cavanagh's latest character? He's my favourite since Harrison Wells, the Reverse Flash of Season 1. He's cool and suave. This is a man of adventure. This is a man who can get in a fight and hold his own. We haven't seen a Wells like that. There's this completely unexpected side to him, which I will not spoil, that's just wonderful, and he has a secret. It's a secret that will be slowly dripped out in graphic novel number 1, but which will really mess with his mind literally in graphic novel number 2. It's going to lead him to an emotional place that's similar territory to one of the other wells, and I don't want to give a spoiler away, but it takes it in a completely opposite direction. It will be very apparent by episode 606 what his secret is. You all will ask yourselves, wait a minute, that's like the other wells, but I don't think it's going to end the same way. It's a very emotional story that we're very excited about, and I know Tom's excited about it. And he looks good in his costume. He's having a good time, and I'm loving it. I'm laughing as I write it, which is great. So I wonder what other wells will be like. Maybe Harry? Maybe something like a Jesse Quick sort of situation? Maybe Harry? That's probably my prediction. I'd say Harry, maybe. I don't know. Let me know what you think there. Sue Dearborn has been teased a bit. Will we be meeting Sue this season, and could you ever see Ralph and Sue in their own spin-off series? I'll answer the second question first, and yes, without question, we're actually writing the episode right now where Sue first appears, and boy, are we having a blast because Sue is such a delight. Sue Dearborn will appear in the back half, but sometimes what you see isn't what you see. Is that opaque enough? Is that the word opaque? I don't know. Opaque. Maybe that's the word. Enough, anyway. With Sue, I'm surprised they're leaving her to the back half, but I guess there's so much crisis crap happening that they have to just, if they want to introduce new characters that are, going to be in the future, in future seasons, then maybe the back half's the best place to do that. But I guess there's no surprise that Sue's appearing, considering the Ralph tease at the end of last season. Keenan Lonsdale has said that he'll be back this season. When might we see that? We'll start breaking his episode next week, and my nervous problem is that I've talked to him and he said he's going to be in it. I've heard that he's still saying it, but I'm dreading the phone call of, I'm busy, I'm doing another album. I support so much his music career and his other artistic endeavors, which I think are terrific, but if all goes well, we should be breaking his story in the next couple of weeks. I'm trying my best to honor that and get Kid Flash in for a couple of episodes because the story is so good. Kid Flash will now meet a classic villain from the classic days of the classic comic books, and maybe he'll have to save the Flashes behind, which is what I want to see. He's not a kid anymore. He's grown up. Now, I think he's alluding to the issues last year when Keenan was meant to come back to play Kid Flash, and it just seemed that he just went on his own way and did some other stuff, which is fair enough. He's had other commitments. But I guess a lot of people think that Wally might get a new suit, and that sort of line there where he says he's not a kid anymore, he's grown up, makes me think that Wally will get his own sort of like Flash type suit. Like it won't be that yellow suit anymore. Maybe similar to like the older Wally West in the comics right now and Titans and stuff. I know, that seems like maybe what he's alluding to there. I don't know. And the final question and answer is, how do you approach the science of it all on this show? I'm a science nut. I used to write a comic book for DC Comics called Mr. Terrific, which was super sciencey to the wazoo. And I used to work on Eureka back in the day, which was a science-based family comedy drama. I got in a habit way back in the Eureka days of just reading Scientific American and Googling websites and NASA sites on a regular basis, so science is my friend. I like to use the Stephen King rules of writing where you come up with the crazy idea and then find the facts to support it. We'll write the science and the scripts in a way that's very complicated and very technical, and then we'll do what we call a simplicity pass to make sure everyone can understand the basic concepts. And then we'll do another pass for how much we really need to explain because it is a science fiction and fantasy show, but we don't have 800 pages. We have 42 minutes and the scripts will get too long. If you bog them down with that type of stuff, it is a balancing act, but I do like to put as much real science into the stories as possible because there might be young people watching this and going, I want to be a scientist like Caitlin. I want to be a scientist like Cisco. Suddenly, maybe there will be one more scientist in the world, and that would be really awesome. So I take it very seriously, the messages that the show is presenting to our young people and to people of color. So yeah, that's the interview there with Eric. It's a massive one. Sorry for hopefully this didn't go for too long, as it probably has. But hopefully you enjoyed the video and what we went over. I think what Eric has laid out here is very exciting. It's a bit spoilery in some ways, but not spoilery to the point where it spoils an episode for you. But if this doesn't get you excited for The Flash this season, also the impending crisis in episode 9 for most of the shows and episode 8 for Arrow, I don't know what's going to get you excited. Like what, $1 million? Don't answer that because a lot of people are going to say, yeah, give me $1 million. But if you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like and it shows support. Let me know in the comment section down below, guys, your favorite part from the interview with Eric and what you're most excited for the upcoming season later this week. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.